Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the Gamut Network. I could barely sleep last night because I was so excited for this interview with these two people who have become dear friends, and that is something so beautiful about the work that we're doing. So it is with great pleasure to introduce Dana and Derek from Zappos.com and specifically Zappos Adaptive. Hi, guys.
Hi, how's it
Hi.
going?
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you
You
so
so
much
much,
for having
Mindy.
us.
Love having you.
It's so great to see you, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this. I think it's so incredibly important right now to have these creative ways to keep our connections with the community that we rely on and that we love to serve. So thank you so much. This is awesome.
I couldn't agree more, and that's a perfect lead-in to what I was just about to ask you. Dana, can you share with our audience the kind of founding story of how Zappos Adaptive came to be?
Yeah, sure. So just in case people don't know who Zappos is, I'll give you a little background on Zappos as well, because we are an extension. So we're an online retailer. We sell clothing, shoes, accessories, bags, and more. And when we say more, that more means really just creating this connection with our customers and creating the best customer experience possible. And so Zappos Adaptive was born from this customer service and experience that we have. And so it was almost 6 years ago, which is unbelievable that it's that long ago. 6 years ago, one of our employees, Saul, was on, taking new hire training, and he was on a call with a customer. And this customer, Tanya, was returning a pair of shoes she bought for her grandson. And she was really frustrated because she couldn't find what she needed for her grandson. And so Saul on the phone was asking her questions and connected with her. And what she shared with him was her grandson Gabriel has autism, and he does not have the dexterity to tie shoelaces. And he was 11 at the time, and as his foot size was getting larger, there were less options for alternative closures, like bungee cords or Velcro and whatnot. And so Saul said, no problem, let me look online. We have a wide selection. And he went online and looked, and sadly, he could not find a solution for her grandson. And he walked away from that phone call almost 6 years ago, asking a question like, how do we, Zappos, serve all customers? And that's really how it started, from that one customer call.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it really kind of underscores a lot of important things about Zappos as a company. I believe your kind of mantra is that you're a customer service company that happens to sell shoes and clothing, etc. And the notion that Saul could not service a part of the population was so monumental for him and a company that Zappos Adaptive was born. And I think that's so important to underscore, because it goes to the integrity and the authenticity of how Zappos Adaptive was created. So Derek, let me pivot to you for a second. So now you were working at Zappos before the creation of Zappos Adaptive. How did that happen, the transition, or how did you get connected to that? Why was it meaningful for you?
Yeah. No, I've been in the apparel business for a very long time now. And within my career at Zappos, I'd focused mainly on denim and doing some men's and women's fashion apparel. And that had always been my passion for as long as I can remember, is just apparel. And my very good friend, Mitch Holy, wanted to talk with me about how could we try to petition the Special Olympics to allow for his son Garrett, who has Down syndrome, to compete in like a grappling tournament or judo or something. So myself, some fighters from the UFC, and some other colleagues within Zappos worked with Mitch to get this foundation set up for his son. And that was kind of something that elevated my kind of give back within the community. And someone that Dana or Saul had spoken to when Zappos Adaptive was first getting spun out was like, you need to talk to Derek. Derek has some experience in getting this foundation set up. You know, he knows his apparel and knows, you know, has been at Zappos for however long. So you should really talk to him. And someone approached me, and that was kind of the spark for me to start looking at who's out there now that's making products specific for people with disabilities, or who has product that may inadvertently work for someone with a disability. And that really got my kind of engine firing, and really wanted to see where we could go with it. And yeah, that's my little background in that. And it's just been an awesome journey since. And I'm very grateful to be able to take my love for apparel and kind of help other companies get going with what they're trying to do in the adaptive space. And what Zappos Adaptive is doing too is just, it's not just what we're kind of focusing on. All of these other brands, they're coming to us and asking us now. So that little phone call that, you know, could have just been disregarded really kind of sparked potentially a movement with some of these bigger brands out there. And then those people that maybe were scared to start something, like they know that there's an audience and people are there to try to help support and do what they can to make their business grow and get as many people helped out getting dressed as possible.
Absolutely. And, you know, talking about the audience, I think this is something that was very eye-opening to the industry, in that people with disability make up 20% of our planet. Over 1 billion people have a disability, making them the largest minority that we have. So not only is it the right thing to do, but it's a phenomenal business opportunity. And Zappos Adaptive, I think, has done an unbelievable job of taking both sides of that it's an amazing business opportunity and the right thing, and combining it to make this incredible platform. But before I dive more into that, Dana, I know that you also have more of a personal background that attracted you to working on the Zappos Adaptive team.
Yeah, so my entire background is in retail for 30 plus years. And when I moved to Vegas, travel side of retail, and September 11th happened. So I ended up working with my brother in his business, and I just worked over at the community center right by my house, just as something else to do. And I ended up being connected to the disability community, because they were looking for more classes and more options for people as it related to the recreation side. And I was also going to school for special education at the time. So I said, well, yep, let's try it. So we started an adaptive swim class at this community center, and it was for children ages 5 to 17. And I started with one student, and it grew, and I'm happy to say that they're still doing it at the community center to this day, and that is 12 years ago. I started with this one little boy, Joey, and he has autism, and nonverbal, and we worked together and grew this program, and he was 6 years old at the time. And I very quickly got introduced to the autism community. And 12 years ago, there was little known about autism. Joey just celebrated his 18th birthday, and I'm still invited to the parties. So I still have a really close connection with the community here. And the way that I became part of Zappos Adaptive it's almost surreal. You know, I saw an email come through about this idea for creating an online platform, an online space for a specific product for people with disabilities. And I was like, what? That's incredible. And so I responded to the email, and as soon as I heard the story behind it, and knowing that I was part of the community, and not once, this is the most interesting piece of it, not once has a parent, they know my background in retail, and I'm working with their child on a recreation side. Not once have they mentioned or the frustration on getting their child to independently get dressed. Mm-hmm. And not until Zappos Adaptive and I collided, which was 5 years ago, that it became apparent that there is a need out there that nobody really knew about. And so being able to bring my retail background and working with people with disabilities of all ages and all different disabilities together in this thing, what we call Zappos Adaptive, is unbelievable. And I think you said it, Mindy, and I love how you laid it out. Is, you know, when we learned of this opportunity from Saul, we knew that it was, number one, the right thing to do. Regardless of anything else, we were going to do it. But then after all the research and the people with disabilities that we were talking to and organizations like yourself, learning about this market opportunity, it just brought those things together for us to be able to share with our brands on what the opportunity is that really was non-existent quite a few years ago.
Absolutely. So now Zappos Adaptive is born roughly 6 years ago. But one of, I think, the most important things that you guys did was that you didn't just launch and say, here we are, we know the community, we know what we're doing, we have Zappos Adaptive. You did the most authentic path that you could take by bringing together leaders in the community. I'm humbled to say I was one of them, to help you guys learn and understand and grow as a company to do this the right way. And that not only shows, you know, the dedication as a brand to doing this right, but it also shows the dedication to the community, that you weren't doing it without including the community in the process as well. Can you talk a little bit about that part of the kind of the growing of the brand of Zappos Adaptive and the amazing people that you brought into the mix?
Yeah, and I'll take a stab first and let Derek chime in, because we have kind of both different sides. And
Yeah.
I think that is the most important thing that we look at. Is we wouldn't exist today if it wasn't for that feedback from that one person that called in. So we use that as our guiding light, and open the doors up for feedback from the relates to getting dressed. And so we've done quite a few things. We've had focus groups come to the office and try on product so we can see firsthand what that looks like and what challenges they might have getting dressed, and including brands, so they can also get a glimpse into how challenging it could be getting dressed. And sometimes we don't think of those things off the bat, but when you're you know, have the community in front of you and people that, you know, when we're at different events, we have people come to us and share. And that's, I think, the most important thing, is just being open enough to listen and hear what their needs are, so we can then move forward in trying to provide a solution for whatever those needs are.
I love that. And also just constantly getting the feedback.
Yeah, and I think
there's
what
never,
we were able to do.
Go ahead, Derek.
I was, you know, we really wanted to be very careful when it came to, you know, building the platform. So, you know, Dana, with her background, working with the autism community and working with these different organizations, you know, we really relied heavily on them at first. We then took that even a step further and started reaching out to other members of the disability community to get feedback for what they need. And then Dana really worked to get what you were on, Mindy, the advice council, so that when we did have questions, when we, you know, whether it was from the brand specific for people that have disabilities, people that, you know, maybe they're a parent of someone with a disability or a caregiver, whatever the case may be, we bringing all these people together really allowed for us to have each individual or each an opinion about how we could go about, you know, making Zappos Adaptive the best that it could be by listening to all of those folks. And when we did have questions, you know, we'd lean on you guys and ask, like, hey, what about this? What about that? Because we really wanted to do it the right way. And, you know, kudos to Dana and everybody else that really worked hard to get that advisory council up, because that, I think, definitely allowed for us to not have the mistakes that maybe we could have made.
Absolutely.
You know, we had someone there to answer those questions and really let us know, hey, we're going the right path, or hey, you don't want to go that way. So you know, we were very, very mindful of that. And then when we first started from the product side, you know, there are a lot of, there's a lot of product that Zappos has that maybe it's not necessarily advertised as, hey, if you have a disability, this will work for you. But we went to the brands and said, hey, you know, what kind of certifications do you have for orthotics? What kind of certifications, or what do you know? Have you talked to an orthotist so that if these, you know, shoes you're saying they're AFO friendly, is that true? You know, can we see all of that documentation so that we could make that judgment while featuring this product that is already on Zappos to give those folks that may need something specific a little bit easier time finding it. So that was, I mean, we definitely really leaned on that to make sure that we were crossing all of our T's and dotting all of our I's, and being, you know, appropriate, and being someone in the community that people could trust, because we were trusting them for how we could continue our journey.
Absolutely. And even from the product standpoint, you know, certainly since we've been working together, there's been such a, you know, tidal wave almost of brands that are now interested in getting into the adaptive. So I want to dive into that a little bit, because I can, you know, share a wonderful story that came out of an event that we did together last March, that we had this amazing fashion show in Vegas with people with all types of disabilities going down the runway. It was absolutely spectacular. And your vendors were in the audience, and you guys were so specific about when we did this show, because we wanted, you guys wanted, and we wanted, obviously, vendors to see consumers that they're missing out on. And it was so impactful that there are brands that were in the audience that suddenly realized, because of this show, that they could be doing more, they could be expanding their customer base. One of them is on our show, Apaman, who is now going to be launched, or actually just launched.
Just launched, baby.
Yes, yes.
Their adapted version of their amazing children's wear line. But that's really the impact that I think Zappos Adaptive is having on brands that, again, you know, really bridging that gap, that this is a business opportunity. These are consumers that are not being considered, and you are behind it and creating the platform for it. You know, either one of you can answer this, but have you seen more brands come to you to say, we want in?
So one of the, I think one of the most awesome things that's happening right now is exactly what you're saying. Is after that amazing, I mean, that fashion show, again, I think is probably one of my favorite of all times events that we've done with Zappos.
I haven't been to any others, but it's my favorite.
And I do think, Mindy, what you said, it has changed perception and is changing the conversation that we're having with brands. And we had the opportunity to, after the fact, some of the brands that were part of it. We had over 200 brands that were in the audience for that fashion show. And I can't tell you how many people reached out after we did the presentation to share with them the opportunity. And I am so excited of the number of brands right now that are just asking the simple question and being curious of how do we make our product more accessible. And, you know, I think one of the other things that, just to chime in on that, is it's really sometimes just a universal design that everybody could wear, but because of the unique feature, that it could also help people that have challenges getting dressed. And so I think that's also another thing that it's, you know, important when we start talking. It's not specifically a niche business. It is a broad spectrum of people that can utilize the product that's universally designed.
Absolutely. And Derek, how about you from the product perspective? Have you seen I know that quite a few people have come to me asking for an introduction to you.
Yeah.
And I think you've done an unbelievable job of creating an assortment being very specific. And I highly recommend everybody out there going to Zappos Adaptive on Zappos.com because it is so curated for not only specific needs, but more in a, and again, you know, a general way of getting product that may just be on the main site.
Yeah.
That is easier for people to wear.
And I think, yeah, so we were, just from everyone's background on the team, you know, we, there's so many products out there that have maybe just something about them that anybody can wear. So I think that was like the first step. And even when you're talking about a product that's already in existence, there may be just a slight change that you make to that that's going to open that particular product up for, you know, a whole different group of people. So you have that kind of background that Zappos has. You know, we have all of these great brand relationships. You know, people are coming to us now specifically from even before the fashion show. I mean, you know, there's been a couple things that have come up where Zappos Adaptive was mentioned. And, you know, we've gotten some people reaching out for that. But then there's a group that, you know, that are doing it themselves, you know, whether it's a nurse that's making a clothing line because she sees something in her day to day, or, you know, I mean, people whose children may need something and they're doing, you know, very similar. I mean, that could have been where this led in your experience too. So, yeah, so, it's been really, really awesome seeing not only all of these great entrepreneurs that are trying to really make a difference, but then when you see these companies that are wanting to do something as well, it's just a really good, perfect mix of everyone, because you have the people, the bigger brands, that's going to draw attention, that's going to shine light on maybe one of these entrepreneurs to show that there are people that are doing things even if they're not a big company. So it's this really awesome kind of way that we've been doing things that are helping the community and leveraging those relationships. So if brand X needs advice, you know, we have someone that can kind of maybe talk to them and kind of show them, or, hey, here's this group that you can lean on to, you know, do a focus group or whatever. So it's just been really, really cool seeing the positive experience from all types of different brands that are out there.
I love that. And actually, on that note, could each of you share maybe a story or an experience that you've had in the formation of Zappos Adaptive that has been so meaningful to you, that maybe you are a part of somebody's journey or life that you may not have been if Zappos Adaptive didn't exist?
Oh. I have so many, but there's this one, and Derek, I know you'll remember, we were at the Abilities Expo and in Houston a couple years ago, and we have a booth and we are showcasing all the product and just exposing product to the people that are attending the Abilities Expo, which are people with disabilities, people without disabilities, occupational therapists. And I remember this woman came to the booth and she was in a wheelchair, and I was showing her the Nike Fly shoe that basically has a zip around the back and it opens up so you can slide your foot in. And the look on her face when I showed her the shoe was like the impact that just that had on her. And then she took the shoe and she tried it on, and she and I both were in tears because she was sharing with us it was the first time in her 27 years of life that she could put on a shoe by herself.
I mean, there are the words to that you not only were a part of that beautiful experience with her, but it's something that we all able-bodied people at least take for granted. That it was a huge moment in her life that you were not only a part of, but helped to solve with Nike. Yeah. So there's nothing better than that.
I still feel it.
I know, me too.
No, I'm like, oh. I mean, there's so many things so positive and it just stuck with me. And I'll kind of lean more on the product side of things because I like a quote from an old buddy, Mick Ebeling, who is a mad scientist that we know. And his kind of mantra is you help one, you help many. So, you know, as different brands approach me with what they're trying to do, the community they're trying to service, even if it's very niche, you always have that. The story is always very impactful. And one specifically that comes to mind is one of the vendors that Zappos has on the site. It's called Tubesies. And Tubesies is a product, it's a onesie specific for babies that may need G-tube access. And Cecilia, in her past career, was a NICU nurse and saw this every day, saw babies that needed a feeding tube put in and then, you know, fed and taken out, and just knew the challenge, not or the baby itself, because of how fussy it would get if it was, you know, if it needed to eat, and you're making a mess and you have to really do a whole heck of a lot to be able to feed a baby with a feeding tube in that environment. So she came up with this idea to just basically add a trap door to it. And because of that, like, she has no experience in retail, in design, and anything, and just seeing that type of passion. And that's just one example of the tons of different folks that we come across that are either on Zappos Adaptive, or we're trying to work to get them on Zappos Adaptive, or in some instances, we may not even, you know, be the right platform for them, but trying to guide them to the right direction so that they can be successful and help other people. But for me, that one always sticks with me because it was just someone that really went out on a limb. And if people know the story of Zappos, a lot of people, you know, back in the day that came on board to Zappos, they were taking that leap of faith because they had a career that they were, you know, really, you know, focused on. And just hearing those type of stories just really just makes me grateful for this opportunity that I have to you know, help other folks. So it's just been, that's the one that's really kind of, those type of experiences really stick with me, because there's so many that are very similar to Dana's. I mean, it just fills you up with just such positive energy. So
I love that. And what I don't want our viewers to kind of miss on is that you also brought the Tubesies type of brands to millions of people. So the platform and the purpose of Zappos Adaptive is not only helping that amazing woman that just wanted to help with the creation of Tubesies, but you guys are the conduit to get it out to those that need it. And I definitely want to make sure that's underscored, because it is so important what you are doing with Zappos Adaptive to be the platform that our population can go to not only get product that they need that makes them feel good and look good, but you're also helping the smaller designers like a Tubesie get their product out to those that need it. So I am, on behalf, if I may, of the population, thank you. I want to make sure that we give everybody watching a way to get in touch with you. Should they go to Zappos Adaptive? What's the best way if they have questions, if they have product they want to bring to life? What's the best way to get in touch with you guys and the team?
I would probably say our social media platforms are, you know, those are, you know, we're always checking those. We have a dedicated social media manager, Lori, who is also on the team that kind of manages that. Yeah, Lori's great. That's a really good way, and probably more instant. We do have an email address as well. You can email zapposadaptive@zappos.com. Dana, myself, Connie, and Lori all have access to that. So whatever the question, concern, if it's a new brand or they're looking, you know, someone's looking for advice on what they need to wear, feel free to email us or talk to us on our social channels. And you know, we're pretty good, about 48-hour return time on those emails, but social media for sure.
Okay, perfect. And before we go, I'd like to ask all of my guests one final question. And that's in regard to something I believe very much in, and that's a vision board. By putting your hopes and your dreams out there because you are going to accomplish them and you want to see them at all times to make it happen. What would be your vision and your dream for Zappos Adaptive or the category in general? Dana,
oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Because I have vision board for my personal, which relates to what I do at Zappos with Zappos Adaptive, of course. But I always say this, I've used this many times, that, you know, 5 years down the road, what would I see Zappos Adaptive? It really wouldn't exist as a separate platform, that we would just have product for everybody, and they would just be able to search for product with unique features, if you have a disability or not, just like plus size maternity, it would be the same, but it would be easier to find, and we would have a lot more product for people to be able to express themselves through the clothing that they get to wear.
I love it. Mainstreaming it just completely, that it's just a part, it's a different shaped body, it's different needs, and it's all under the same umbrella.
Yes, and one more thing to add on, because once that happens, then we have to be working on other things.
Yes, of course.
And I think you company that happens to sell clothing, shoes, bags, and more. And when I think of that more, there's so many other opportunities that I'm super passionate about that I could see down the road, that bringing the love of music and the people with disabilities that might not have the opportunity to go to these festivals or have the opportunity to easily go to these festivals, to make something more accessible as it relates to music and people with disabilities. That's
I love that.
my
Sorry, Derek, before I turn it to you, I do have to share a fun story that I know that festivals are very important to you, Dana. And I am going to go and admit this to the world, but I don't love live music. I don't. I know.
Uh-oh.
You know that, Dana. I like, you know, a little entertainment, a little Britney Spears, a little Madonna. That's a little bit more me. So Dana loves to make fun of me. Then I'm like, what festival is that? What is this? Is it the thing of a beer or whatever? So I love that you're going to share that with everyone. And maybe, you know what? If it's on my computer, I'll join in too. I love it. Perfect. Thank you. Derek, what's on your vision board?
I think mine is very, very similar to Dana's, and you know that there isn't a Zappos Adaptive, that Zappos just continues to live by, you know, that our service model in providing great service for no matter who it is. So ultimately my goal would be that there's not a Zappos Adaptive, and that products are more conscientiously designed with that universal take. And I think that's going to be, you know, that would be my goal. And then just that other brands, you know, that get on board with this movement, or even, you know, new brands that are coming up that are doing something so different and so unique. I think that there's just so much opportunity, and what we're seeing now, like where we can go in 5 years, is that growth to get to that universal concept that everything is everything. All this product is for everybody. And I think that I would be very happy if that, you know, in 5 years we're having another chat and we back, and that's kind of what we were able to help accomplish, not just for Zappos, but just, you know, for all of the retailers, you know, any e-commerce platform or whatever, that it's here for everybody, and you don't have to be so specific. So that'd be my goal. But we'll see. Yeah.
No, I have no doubt you guys are going to make it happen. Derek, Dana, Lori, Connie, the whole team that is behind Zappos Adaptive. I'm incredibly grateful, humbled to have you in my life, and I love you both dearly. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Mindy. We love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep doing.
And if
yes, please don't stop.
If you would like to be on the Gamut Network, please email us at talent@gamutmanagement.com to tell us why you'd be a great guest. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Gamut Network, and please go to our social channels at Gamut Management. And of course, your homework for today is to go to Zappos Adaptive on zappos.com. Thank you both.
Thank you, Mindy.
Bye.
Bye.